Good afternoon, everybody. Yes, indeed, I've been moving quite a lot in the past years, and I've designed this prototype when I was working in Bangor University, North Wales, with Andrew Pullin. And it has been, nevertheless, a collaborative work with all the KNEU team and a lot of inputs from the people attending the 3 regional workshops at the early stages of this adventure. And now I'm back to France because I'm a French citizen, and I'm working at the Foundation for Research on Biodiversity, where I conducted the case study on agriculture. So you will hear that. You will see me again on the stage later. So I would like to take you to practical grounds now, because you have all the theories and the challenges and the expectations of an added value of this work. But how do we do that? So, the prototype itself. So the prototype is a nickname for a mechanism. How do we work? What kind of material and methods we use on a daily basis when we want to provide the decision makers with the best available knowledge, or the knowledge that is available at that time, to help him or her make the best possible decision. So the prototype itself must have some added values, and there were the challenges that were set up at the very early stage. We want the decision maker to be informed with all the possible knowledge on the topic at the time he wants to make a decision. So the comprehensiveness of knowledge is a challenge itself. You don't want to take some papers published, you want to take them all to make sure that everything is on the table. Obviously, by doing so, you will have to face the challenge of including knowledge from different disciplines. And as Christophe said, from different stakeholders. It's not only about scientific knowledge, it's also about technical knowledge, indigenous knowledge, traditional knowledge, and so on. You want to make sure that the decision maker is aware of the quality of the knowledge that is available, whether he can really trust this knowledge, or whether there are gaps, or it's heterogeneous. There is some kind of risk in making this decision based on the current knowledge. So it's about critically appraising this knowledge and setting up standards, saying that you have a certain kind of level of confidence in this knowledge. And another challenge is to make sure that this is a dynamic knowledge base. You want to make sure that you can update the work of the synthesis of knowledge that you're going to do as easily as possible, because it's going to be a lot of work to gather together all this knowledge and to synthesize it. But the knowledge is going to keep on piling up with time, and you want to be able to upgrade it as easily as possible. You don't want to do it again and again from scratch. This raises the problem of interoperability of data, of knowledge, but also the connection possible between this knowledge base and other existing knowledge bases like bees and other systems like IPBES, catalogs of assessments and so on. And finally, this is a lot of work, but you want to transfer that to people who are not scientists, or not always scientists, and to decision makers and knowledge users, so it has to be quite explicit, simple as possible. It has to be of certain quality, that's why there's a peer review, and it has to be cost effective. If it costs too much, you will never make it. So those were the initial challenges. And now how to do that, we immediately thought, well, it's a kind of project management. You need to be able to explain to people how to proceed steps by steps. And what you have immediately in mind when you do that is to draw a kind of flow chart. And I'm just making a small bracket here to give you a wing of an eye of something that is currently developed by IPBES. But remember that we started KNEU before we had that. So we are very proud now because we have our own flow chart. And if you have time, just have a look and make the comparisons between what IPBES is currently developing and what KNEU and NoK is developing. And there are very interesting parallels. So it means that it's common sense probably at all levels. So we designed the prototype as a play with actors. And remember that in the following of these days, the exercise we are going to do and the discussions, you will be required to remember these actors. So there is a NoK, there is a network of knowledge made of knowledge holders. And you have requesters, who are people who are in charge of making decisions. They can be policymakers, but they can be managers of biodiversity on local level. And they have some concerns, and they want to get some answers. They want to have this knowledge available to make the best possible decision. Those are the requesters. Then, from this community of knowledge holders, you can also create working groups, those who are conducting the work, who will gather together the knowledge, synthesize it, appraise it, and so on. And evaluators. We didn't use peer reviewers here, we used evaluators, because you have scientific peer reviewers, but you can also have some kind of policymakers reading the work and giving feedback about that, or economists or other people involved who are not strictly biologists, for instance. And then all these people are coordinated by the knowledge coordinating body. You will hear us call it the KCB very often. So KCB is knowledge coordinating body. And you will be asked to play the role of a KCB this afternoon, if I'm right. Yes. So the mechanism itself. So you've seen that. Here we go. It has been cut into 3 stages: preparing, conducting, and finalizing, with the request, dialogue, and I'm going to go through very quickly through these steps very quickly. The requester contacts the KCB and say, I have a concern, I have a question, and you have a list of questions available for us to play with this afternoon. And there may be a need to discuss with the requester, to rephrase the question, to make sure that everything is very clear for everybody. And at this stage, the KCB may be very interested in getting some insight from what we call a scoping group, who will be in charge of preliminary assessing whether there is available knowledge, what type of knowledge, the kind of quality of knowledge that's there, and how many experts, just to make sure that there is during this dialogue stage, there is an assessment of the feasibility of the study. If it's too big, too broad, you may have to refine it or subdivide it, and you need these elements to make sure you discuss with the requester at an early stage before you make any decision. So with this dialogue, you refine expectations, you clarify scope and scale, you can divide into sub-questions, you set up priorities if needed, and you will also discuss about the methods to conduct this assessment, so I will go back to that later. And obviously you take into account the costs and resources, because that will be the limiting factor in many cases. And after this dialogue, you finalize the request and you make it available to everybody who will be interested, especially the working groups and the evaluators that would be selected at one point and composed to conduct the work. And then, I'm going to go there. So now the work is in the hands of the working group. They're going to take the finalized requests with all the elements already, and they also benefit from the results of the preliminary assessment of the knowledge, and they have a list of other experts probably available there, and they have the methods they can use. So during the conduct of the Biodiversity Knowledge project, we had 3 methods on the table: the evidence-based approaches, adaptive management, and expert consultation, but there are others. For instance, a request could be to design a model or scenario of biodiversity and so on and so forth. So it's not limiting. The examples that you find here are just because they were set up like that for the project. So this working group is going to take all that into account and is going to go into even more details, and is going to write a draft protocol, which is for the scientists in the room, the material and methods, except that it's not for research here, it's for synthesis of knowledge. How how do they plan to do the work? How do they challenge the difficulties, the problems, the decisions they will have to make, the scope, rejecting or accepting some kind of knowledge, and so on and so forth. And they are going to brainstorm about that before conducting anything, because they want to have the feedback of several people. From this draft protocol, which will be a written paper, could be a written paper, they will get the feedback from the evaluators to make sure that scientifically it's very sound, but also from the requesters and other stakeholders to make sure that it's policy relevant, it meets the expectations, it answers the question of the requesters. They can make some amendments if needed, and you reach a final protocol, as previously you reached a stage where you had a final request. It's very important to go through these stages to make sure that at every stage everybody agrees, everybody fully understands what's going on, how it will be done, and there is no resentment at the end saying, oh, well, I thought you would have been doing that and I'm really deceived, because there is money and resources and challenges there, so you don't want to miss that. From the finalized protocol, you can go. You can do the work. And the final protocol in some approaches, like systematic reviews approach, is so detailed that actually you just need to do what exactly has been written. You will face other problems, but it's very transparent. So that's another asset for credibility. You do the work, you gather all the knowledge together. It seems simple like that, it's not. You synthesize the results and you write a draft report, which will go through a peer review process again, with commas, because it can be, you can get feedbacks from the requesters themselves at this stage. And in IPCC and in IPBES, these stages are planned already. And you reach the final report. This final report can be made public, and a follow-up of that work could be to disseminate to the whole community of knowledge holders and knowledge users using the NoK again. And an interesting final stage would be to get feedbacks from the users themselves to see whether it has been useful or not and what kind of usage they've made of these results. And I think that's it. And I hope I've been not too long, and I'm here to answer all your questions. Yes, just... You will see a poster here, and I have some reprints, so it's on the table with the other leaflets. And if you need more, you just ask me, I can send it to you, and it's in the leaflet too, so thanks.